The test now. If you're watching this, it's just starting a test. Be right back, and I'm going to just let it go and see if there's audio and all that good stuff. So we'll see. Okay, I think things are working. Twitch seems to be sort of iffy, but that's not new. It seems to always be iffy. Lord knows. Okay, so I think I'm going to go ahead and disconnect here and start again. Okay, see you in just 1 minute. Hi everyone, if you're watching a recording, do fast forward about a minute. We're going to get started in just a second here. Andy's checking up on all of the platforms and making sure that we are up and running. But we should be running on 4 platforms today, not 5. Why? Because it's been 2 weeks since I've been back and I'm not prepared to deal with Twitter today. So we should be on Facebook, on my personal Facebook, on the Q Talk Facebook page, the YouTube QFOM Gray page, and on Twitch under QFOM Gray. So you can be following on any of those platforms. I know for some of you, some work better than others. So pick your poison, right? Well, happy Valentine's Day. Today is February 14th. It is week 98. Yep. I skipped a week last week, so we're going to pick it up where we left off on week 97. Hopefully some of you guys saw the video from Tucson. And, okay, wait, now nothing's running. Okay, wait. Let me see what's going on here. Oh no, I'm running. I'm definitely running. Okay. Andy says nothing's running, but I think he needs to refresh. But anyway, so hopefully you guys saw the live I did from Tucson. It was quite the whirlwind week, and it was really interesting to be out there during this time of COVID. So, the busiest shows that what used to be the busiest shows, just a quick recap on Tucson here. What used to be the busiest shows was actually some of the slowest shows, which is really weird to be out there. I noticed for myself from vendors that we've been shopping at for about 10 years, because remember we have the store, maybe more than like 15 years. But anyway, a lot of those vendors did not return and they did not make a presence at all. Another thing we learned too was there was a major issue in China, and if you didn't leave soon enough, you were not going to make it at the show. So a lot of the Chinese manufacturers were not there, which made it a little challenging too. So Andy wanted me to let you know that Twitch is just now coming up. So, but still no video, so you can listen. So that said, the weather out there was perfect. I was able to get in 2 hikes. It was freezing in the morning. I know it's really weird to say that down there in southern Arizona it was freezing, but it was literally freezing, like 32 degrees. But thank goodness I came prepared, and my compatriots also came prepared. I got, how many people I get to go with me? Oh, I got 3 people to go hiking with me on 2 different hikes out there in Saguaro National Park. It was really nice, and it's just sort of fun for me because the week before I'm hiking in 2 feet of snow, and now I'm hiking among cactus. So it's just really, the stark contrast is always fun for me. So that was great. It was great having a house with 5 or 4 roommates. Unfortunately, one of the roommates did not make it because of the weather of the storm, I guess now 2 weeks ago, almost 2 weeks ago. that she made it almost or more than halfway. She got all the way to Texas for the East Coast and then turned around because 5,000 flights were canceled that day. So crazy, right? But you know, I feel like it's Tucson, anything goes, anything can happen, and you got to be prepared for the worst. But that was Tucson in a quick recap. That said, let's see what else. Oh, so I'm still unpacking. You might see some of that stuff back there. I'm still unpacking from Tucson and getting organized. And you'll see some stuff. I'm going to put some stuff up for sale, just some cabs that I got, and I'm sharing some of the fun things that I was able to find while I was out at the show. Another quick catch up too. Thank you everyone for your patience and all the words of kindness that have come in personal notes for. You know, we're just going through a little bit of family stuff last week, and which took me out to California. And so thanks for your patience and thanks for coming back and tuning in. I really appreciate that. Okay, so without much further ado, let's get started on something new. This is going to be the new series on Mondays, maybe even Wednesdays. We'll see how it goes. You know, I was looking at the schedule and going, I'm supposed to do a UFO on Wednesday. Do I have a UFO? I don't know. So we'll see what happens on Wednesday. But start something new is going to be me working on something on a technique I have never done before. And maybe this will encourage you to jump in and do things that are outside of your purview. And you too might start something new or something that, you know, you've been wanting to do for a while. So I've gotten a lot of suggestions, and you know, it's funny because people have said, really? Is there something you haven't done? It's like, yeah, there's a lot I haven't done. And this also allows me an opportunity to sort of stretch myself and do something that, again, that I've never done before and test out my skills. So what I ask for during this time is a little patience, because remember, I've never done this. There's not a working sample either. I'm just going to jump in and totally put myself out there. And for what it's worth, you'll watch me fumble along the way. And I know a lot of you have mentioned before that you like it when I fumble, but okay, whatever. I'm going to pretend like I didn't hear that. Okay, so today we're going to do stone on stone. What is stone on stone? Stone on stone, you've seen it, is taking a cabochon and then taking another cabochon and setting it on top of it like so. So here I have a pink Peruvian opal, and then I also have a square garnet. So we're going to set the square garnet in the Peruvian opal cabochon. Okay, so let's talk about everything we need for this. Well, so far, again, everything I'm making a lot of assumptions on how to do this. Okay, because I've not done it before. So brass caliper, tube cutting pliers, Bezel shears, a saw, maybe a bench pin, maybe not, saw blades, of course, some cut lube. You probably want some linseed oil or some sort of lubricant would be good. Not cut lube though. Cut lube I don't like for drilling, but anyway, a mallet. I'm going to use my baby mallet because I have a tiny little piece of silver to cut. A bench block and a file. So this is going to be probably 2 or 3 parts to get this done. I don't know. We'll see. And so, you know, don't get too tied in on the schedule. Be flexible with me. It's going to be a little fluid. We're going to work it out. You never know. I might be able to finish this in an hour. We'll see. Okay. And I might take 3 segments to do this. All right. So that said, I chose these pieces because, frankly, I've had them around for a while. And I had 2 pieces like so. At first, I want to talk about design for a second. At first, I really wanted to do this piece because I personally find this much more interesting than an oval cab. If you actually look at my work, seldomly do you see an oval cab. More than likely, you'll see a round before you see an oval. I don't know. I have this thing for shapes. That said, okay, I thought this would be really cool right here. But then I thought, because this piece in itself is nice, this one I think needs a little bit of zhuzhing. And gee, if I put a stone on there, it would totally make this a much more interesting design. So I'm going to go with this, but this is my plan B, because if I drill into this and I break it, whoops, I have a backup plan. Then I also decided, because it is so plain, and I happen to have this. This is a gallery wire bezel cup. That happened to, I know, it's all very coincidental. I'm being totally honest. This was not planned. I just pulled the material this morning and went, huh, look, I have just enough, or just the right thing. So this happens to fit my cabochon. I'm not even bother trying to get it in there right now. And it has gallery wire on it. It's just a little bit of interest. This is also plain that I wanted to add a little bit more interest to it. So that's what's happening there. And then I'm going to use gallery wire to set this piece again to make it a little bit more interesting instead of doing bezel wire, like plain bezel wire. So I'm going to use this gallery wire here to add more interest to this piece. Now, I don't know where I'm going with this, frankly, how much more zhuzhing I'm going to do, but I'm pretty sure there's going to be a lot more zhuzhing to go. Okay, so that said, first things first, to set this into your, we'll call it the back cabochon, into the oval cabochon, you need to drill a hole. So I'm going to take some painter's tape. Actually, I need to decide where I want this in the first place. So, okay, let's think. Where do I want this? How do I want this? See, I don't think I want it in the middle. If you have thoughts, by the way, do jump in. And actually, I didn't even think about setting it this way. No, I think we're going to go this way. All right. And if this works out really well, I'll put it up for sale. Maybe we'll auction it off for charity or something. Okay, so how about if I put it in, oh, I think I like that, in a diamond shape instead of a square shape. Okay. By the way, if you have any questions along the way or suggestions, do go ahead and put it in the chat. I might not be able to see any of it. At this point, I see absolutely nothing, but Andy does, and he will relay all those messages to me. So I see someone agrees out there, Linda agrees with me about setting this on point. So I think that's where we're going to go with it. So I'm going to go ahead and put a piece of painter's tape on there, like so. I saw this trick somewhere, and I'm going to go with it, about putting a piece of tape on. I usually don't when I'm drilling a hole, but I believe their point was to keep this from shattering and the bit from skidding. So I'm going to put it right there. Okay. So what I have here is a 3mm core drill, because the next thing I'm going to do once I drill the hole is to put a piece of tubing in there that will set the stone in place. And it is about the same size as my tubing. Okay. I'm using copper tubing, frankly, because I'm being cheap. You can use silver if you want. I happen to have a piece that was already cut to, you know, a smaller size, so we're going to go with it. Okay, so here we are. We're going to need a flex shaft to be able to do this. You can use a Dremel if you want. If you have a drill that can hold a shank small enough, like this is a 3/32 shank, then you can also use a hand drill or power drill. Okay. So the question is, do we sell the core drill bits? Yes, we do. Actually, everything that you're seeing now, we do sell on our website at theurbanbeater.com. The link is up in the description and in the body of any of the platforms. Okay. All right. So here, what I have is a wet sponge with some water. Now, a lot of people don't do this, and that's okay. I like to do this because it keeps the dust down, and it also keeps my stone cool. And because some of the stones that we use are really fragile, I can't say that this piece is particularly fragile, but some of them are fragile, and it's nice to keep them cool, and then you don't have to worry about it. So this is sort of a habit that I have. Okay, so that said, I'm going to put it right on here. And oops, you know what? I'm just gonna, okay, maybe not. It's a little dried out. Okay, so again, this is linseed oil. I'm just gonna dip my bit right in there. I just really like having everything lubricated. A lot of people do this with just water. I just, I like the lubrication. Just sort of go with that. Okay, so here we're going to start the drill bit, start the flex shaft, and we're going to go straight into it. And I'm going to try really hard to keep my hands straight up and down, and also hope that my drill bit, I'm using a used drill bit, so I'm hoping that my drill bit is still good. We'll see very quickly here. I didn't even think about that till I was just saying this out loud. Okay, so I can feel the stone getting warm. So this is okay. Just dip it in the water and get it cool. Depending on your stone, this may take longer to drill through, because sometimes, again, the harder it is, the longer it takes. And you'll see every so often I'm dipping my water in here just to keep the dust down. By the way, as a word of caution, also, if you are drilling pearls or sea life, shells, that kind of thing, you need to wear a mask. And in today's world, you probably have an N95 at home. So you want to go ahead and use that and protect yourself, because pearl dust and dust from shell is not good for your lungs. Okay, so what happens, I don't know if you can see that. Do you see the tiny little nipple that has formed on the inside of that? This is very common. So, I'm going to just sort of gently pop it out. You see? That will help me along the way. It'll help drill faster. You see how it came out just like that? This is common with a core drill. I personally don't like to use a twist drill, but that's also very personal. A lot of people also use ball burrs, okay? And that's very personal. Just remember, because we are drilling stone, you want to use a diamond-coated core drill or twist drill or ball burr. It's got to be diamond-coated. You cannot use a high-speed drill bit. Okay. I'm drilling in the lid of a ice cream container because it's nice and shallow and gives me just enough water. Without getting, just enough water without getting completely messy, right? It's decided to stop. I don't know why. I hate it when you've got most of the way through and it decides, I really don't want to drill anymore. I'm tired. But we're going to try to be a little bit patient here and keep going. Actually, you know what? Give me a second here. Let me see if I can switch views for you and see if you can see what's going on. Oh, oops. Maybe not. Okay. There we are. Ooh. Okay, camera. Hold still. switch cameras for you. Okay, maybe not. There you go. There you go. Can you see that? Of course, now I have a camera in my face and I can hardly see what I'm doing. You can see the dust coming up, which means it's working. So I'm just going to try to be patient with it. So close. How did you know it was a gelato container, Mr. Larry? Clearly you've been eating some. Speaking of which, it's Valentine's Day, and somebody should send Andy a note and tell him he should go get me some gelato. Yes, he got me cookies this morning for Valentine's Day. And yes, I had cookies for breakfast with my tea. But honey, it's okay for a little bonus. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and take off my tape because I want to see how I'm getting impatient. Can you tell? I want to see how far I've really come. I'm going to put this up and see if I can see the other side. Yeah. See, you can all, oops, let's see. Do I know how to do this? Once I put my finger back there, it darkens up. So I'm so close to the other side. Oh, so close. Okay. I'm starting to see purple. That's a good thing. How do you know you've made it to the other side? Trust me, you'll know. Everybody always asks this question. It's like, you'll know. And why am I not coming in from the other side? Because I'll probably miss if I try to come in from this side. But you can see here. See that little bit right there? It's starting to come through. Yay! But let's be honest, it didn't take that long. Yay me! Woohoo! Okay. There it is. Alright, let's flip out cameras again. There's my stone. Let's put this somewhere. Okay. So the question is, how hard am I pushing down on the drill bit? I'm not pushing down so hard that I'm creating friction, because again, if you push too hard, you're going to wear out your bit, and you're not actually you're hindering the bit from doing its job. So just a little bit of pressure, and you can also see it and feel it as you work with it, that it's actually biting and cutting or not. If you put up too much resistance, it just won't do it. Okay, so then what's going to happen is we're going to put this in there and then this on top to make this happen. But because I have a hole in this, okay, so this is, remember, this is a prefabbed bezel cup. So because this is has a hole in it, I'm going to cover it up with a little tiny piece of silver here. And because there's a hole in it, I won't be able to solder this. I won't be able to solder this tube to the bottom. Now I'm thinking about it. I suppose I could put it on a corner, but who wants to do that? I'll put it in the middle just to make sure. And I'm just going to cut a little piece of silver to go on the inside of this. Would be nice. So this is where scrap is your friend. I know, you would think that I'm making it from scrap again. There we go. And I'm just sort of estimating. So there was a suggestion made that you can use a drill press if you cannot drill straight. Absolutely. However, I will also say this. Be careful using a drill press. I usually encourage people to do this initially, the first, second, third one by hand, so that you understand the kind of pressure you need to get this to happen. Because if you press too hard, you're going to crack your stone. So what I'm doing here is I'm trimming this piece of silver to size to fit inside of my bezel cup. Yes, I could have measured it, but why would I do something like that? Haha. Way too much work, right? And what this is simply to create a back plate that I will solder to the inside so that I have something to solder my tube to. That's all. Okay, so now tweezers. Make sure it's nice and flat. It is not, because I didn't flatten out my sheet, so we'll flatten that out. Actually, I'm going to trim this just a hair more. It's a tiny little bit big. Okay. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and sand this real quick, even though it will change when I solder. I want to ensure that I don't have any scratches in there. So I'm going to clean it up, because at some point it's going to provide reflective value for my garnet that I have. So I just want to make sure it's sort of clean here. Pretty clean. It'll be easier to clean up later. Okay, let's make sure this fits. Drops right in there. So now I'm going to put a little bit of solder on the inside of this. So we'll go with a little bit of hard solder. A little bit of paste. You know, you don't have to get too crazy with this right now, at least for me, because it's just to tack it in. That's all. And somehow or another I got solder on my fingernails. See? So we'll just solder this to the back very quickly and easily. By the way, it was brought to my attention that my note last evening on my Facebook Q Talk page was a little bit confusing. I was saying that I was going to take a little bit of extra time. It means I'm slowing down the schedule just a little bit while we work through our some personal stuff. So here I'm just going to heat up from the bottom, quickly, gently, so that we don't melt the prongs. There you go. On the gallery wire, that is. Okay. I'll go ahead and quench that. It looks pretty clean, so I'm not going to bother to pickle this, okay? So, make sure it's on there. Are you on there? I think you're on there. See if I can push it through. Okay. And then I'm going to take my tube, and I'm going to file this so that the end is nice and straight, because I'm going to solder this right on here. And file. Like that. Okay. And I'm going to put it right on top like so. Let me see if I can change out that view for you. Okay. Oops. Okay. There we go. Oh, that's not good. What I thought was good is not good. There we are. Okay. Better. Sort of. There, even better. Okay, so here's our piece. And I'm just gonna solder this right on top. I'm gonna use a little bit of easy solder. Even extra easy solder. So we'll do a little bit of copper solder on the back there because that's really, really fast and easy. We'll put, I don't know if you can see that. Can you see that? Probably can't focus, too close. There we are, a little bit of solder on the inside. We'll heat it up. Put the tubing right down on it, like so. Did you see that? I pushed the piece through, but that's okay. I pushed that back plate through. Let's see if I can pull it back. Actually, I think it came right back. Let's see. See? Seems to be where it needs to be. I'm good. Yay. All right. So we'll go ahead and stick this in the pickle. I'm looking to see that it's straight. I think that's good enough. Throw it in the pickle. And the next thing I want to do is I want to measure, because the tube is going to have to go in here, I want to measure the depth of this to make sure that I cut the tube down just enough to rivet it on. Now, I did look this up and I saw a couple YouTubes out there, and it's funny because I was thinking, now I'm the one on YouTube, right? Is some people glue this in, and I'm debating on that. Like, do I really want to glue this in? And does that make sense to me? Or do I want to rivet this in? So we're going to debate on that. And, you know, and as I'm processing through this thought of how much tubing do I need for the depth of this, why am I measuring? I can just put the tube in, mark it, and call it good, right? Duh. Okay. Again, see? This is working through something new. So now you understand what I go through or process through when I'm creating a class. What is the best way to approach something? In my brain, anyway. You might not always agree. Okay, so I'm going to put this in. Oh, look at that. So it did solder nice and straight, and it's making good contact. That makes me happy. I'm going to pull out a Sharpie again. Sharpie. And I'm going to go ahead and mark the tube. You could measure it and then measure the tubing, measure the depth of the stone, measure the tubing, but I'm feeling like, why, right? I could do it this way too. Okay, so I'm going to cut it a little bit long because I can always trim it back. I'm also thinking if I want to rivet this to the back plate, then I want to make sure that I have enough tubing to get past the back plate. Plus, when you're riveting, you need a 1 to 2 millimeters of extra tubing for the flare, right? So that is what I am accounting for when I'm cutting this long. Okay, so there it is. And then, let's see, I have my 2 cutting pliers. Let's see if this works in here. Oh yes, just enough for it to be the right size. All right, let me see if I can switch off cameras again. Give me a second. Okay, so we'll go ahead and turn on the other camera, just like so. A little bit of cut lube, get your saw blade going. When you're using a tube cutting plier, make sure that you put where your cut is in between the slit. Put this against the workbench. Do not hold it off the workbench. You want it right on that workbench. You put your saw right in between and you saw like so. You see how it's getting caught on me and it wants to fight me? Okay. Actually, you know, I don't want it there. I want it, I didn't move it in the right place. I want it in one of my slots would be nice. Okay. If your saw gets caught like that, just stroke it up and try to pull it back. At some point, it will release and make it easier for you to do. Ugh. It's not a pretty process, but it works. There we go. Okay. Pray that I cut this right. Oh, yeah. Okay. So you see that? I have just enough. So I'm going to file this just a teeny weeny bit. Like so. Okay. Let's clean that up and go back to the overhead. All right, so what's up next? Now that I have figured out that this is going to be in here, what's up next is we're going to make a bezel for this. Okay, haven't figured out what I'm doing with that back plate yet. Haven't made a decision, but let's go ahead and make the bezel. Like so. So up to you if you want to mark it or eyeball it. I'm going to eyeball it. I'm using my ultra flush cutters because they are my friend and they make life so much easier. So I have a slight overlap. I don't know if you can see that. I have a slight overlap. It's a little bit too big. But I did not check out this cut to make sure that it was good, so we'll cut on this side and trim that. And I like to trim a little bit at a time. Also, when you're doing these bezels, you want to make sure that your cut's going to be on the side and not on the end. It's much nicer this way. Okay, so because this is gallery wire, it's incredibly forgiving, so being a little bit big is okay. Okay, so there's my cut. Oops, there's my cut. You see that? Let's come in a little bit closer. Okay, so there's my cut. It's nice. And I was able to get it so it's almost exact. No one's ever going to see that. You wouldn't have seen that if I didn't show you. I'm going to do a little bit of filing. So there was a question that was asked of me some time back about what size, if you're just starting out, what size cabochon is a good size? Well, I hate to say it quite like this, but not too big and not too small. Because the problem is if it's too small, it's really hard to work with. And it's too big, soldering becomes peculiar because all this metal starts flexing and going all over the place, and it's really hard to control that. So this I would consider, how big is this? I would consider this to be a bit too big. All right, so this one is an inch, just over an inch and a half. Is that an inch and a half? No, that is an inch and a half. So it's a bit big for a beginner. I would prefer that you actually did something more like a size of an inch is much more appropriate for a beginner. Okay, so here I'm just going to just keep playing with this, and I'm going to get these ends to sit together all by itself, because you really, you know, a lot of people bind this stuff and whatnot. It's okay, but it's not a great technique. You should really learn and practice to get this together without help. Okay, so there it is. And you can see I'm ever so slightly off. Let's see if I can get that better. I'm close. I know, it's like watching paint dry and doing this part of it. It really is. I feel like even though I'm the one working, it feels like I'm watching paint dry. Okay. Let me move a couple things around here before we solder the next part, because I don't want to torch anything on my bench. I know, so picky, right? So picky. Okay. There we are. And I think I'm going to do it like this, with the seam down. Typically, I would do it with the seam sitting on the side like this. But I think doing it this way might be a little bit more advantageous, in that if it pops, I can actually push it back down with my fire tweezers and I can hold on to it. I'm going to put a little bit of solder on the inside because this is gallery wire. You want to make sure that you don't get any solder bleeding on your on the design, because it's nearly impossible to fix that. Okay, so we're going to heat this gently. I should really heat it from the back side, not on the prong side, because I don't want to melt those little tiny crowns of a prong. And notice I'm being real gentle about this because gallery wire is so easy to melt. And there it is. Whew, rock on. Okay, I'm gonna double check and make sure that it's actually good and try to pull on that. Throw that into the pickle. And let's talk a little bit about design. Where are we going with this? I don't know. Does anybody have thoughts? Let's see. I'm going to grab a pen. And I'm going to trace it down. So here, clearly using gallery wire, this is going to be a little bit more of a traditional design. What makes it less traditional is that I'm adding the stone on top. Right? But that said, how much zhuzhing do we want to do on here? We have this piece here. This is, well, the other one's inside. This is the gallery wire, right? So to give this a little bit more oomph, think anybody got thoughts here? Just jump on in. If you go to a show like any of the bead shows or any of the gem shows, you'll find that the shall we say that the Indians who produce this kind of product will simply put the gallery wire on and then they put a bail on, and we call it good. Anybody could do that, right? So let's do something different. I'm thinking that maybe we have the gallery wire and then we add bead wire all the way around, just to give it a little bit more something. This is such a big piece. Do I really want to invest and put a piece of silver around like this? No, because now it's huge. It's huge. I know I have this zoomed in, but it would be absolutely huge. Well, okay. I've seen bigger pieces, but for me, this would be huge. Look how big this is going to become. It becomes a 2-inch piece. I mean, gosh, do I want a 2-inch piece? Ooh. So now that I'm saying that out loud, I suppose you could, if we wanted to, make something bigger. How do we keep dressing this up? We could put a couple of CZs or even natural stones that are sparkly on the ends. We could do that. Again, it continues a very traditional design. You could put a piece of tube on the back side for the bail. We could pierce holes in here and put jump rings in. But personally, I don't like to pierce holes on my back plate for the bail because I find it a little bit not interesting. We can step this up. We can totally step this up and make this a little bit better. So, any input out there? Let's see. Okay, let me grab this piece out of the pickle because maybe I'll put it on and you can see a little bit better what we're going to do or what potential this has. Okay, should be nice and soft. Should fit right over. Yep, and it does very nicely. So you can start seeing what this is going to look like. Actually, let me grab some of the other wire here. I have a whole thing of decorative wire. We can go totally crazy with this and add another stone to it. Okay. Who? Okay, so we have a vote for no holes in front, which, again, I absolutely agree. So we can do something like this. This is just round bead wire, but I'm feeling like this is too small, a little bit diminutive on this piece. So let's go a little bit bigger. Actually, you know, we can get totally fancy. This would not be easy, but doable. What if we did? This is berry wire. Oh, there was a suggestion we could incorporate love by stamping one letter in each corner. And then Linda suggested maybe doing a tube, long and short, stacked up for the bail. That's fun too. That's a thought. Okay, so actually, you know what? This is pink. I want to do some I think I want to go do something sort of girly. And now that I have this gallery wire, I'm really sort of digging that. Yeah, I'm digging that. So one vote for berry wire, one vote against the berry wire. So I'm going to go with, oops. Okay, so the thing about this berry wire, you see it's flat. It's not so easy to bend and to play with because you're trying to keep it on a plane. So since this is challenging, I'm going to take the challenge. I'm going to go with something a little bit more challenging. Andy says this wire makes it look old ladyish. I'm going to go with traditional and girly. I'm going to go with girly. I'm going to say this is girly. Andy said he would also like to buy this piece for me and give it to me for Valentine's Day. I don't know how I feel about that. By the way, for those of you who are watching this for the first time, I know I keep mentioning Andy as if I'm talking to myself. I am not talking to myself. He's actually in my ear, as he is with every live that I'm on, except when I'm on location, to tell me what all your comments are. So that I know what's going on. See, it looks almost, this is reminiscent for me of a cameo because it's pink. Okay, so we're a little too long. I'm going to cut one more off. And these little flowers, I keep them because you never know where you can use them again. Save your scrap. You know what? Maybe it shouldn't have been start from scrap. Maybe it should have been save your scrap, the series. Okay, let's pull out some nylon nose pliers. I don't want to mush my flowers. So I'm going to use nylon nose pliers to shape this. At some point, you probably want to anneal this if you've been playing with it a lot. So there it is. There it is. Okay. Yeah, that'll work. That's the right size. Just going to play with that a little bit more to get it there. It is a little bit fancy, isn't it? It's like really fancy. It's a little over the top. I'm going to agree with Gail. It's a little over the top. But it's a bit girly. Okay, so instead of struggling with this shape, I'm actually going to go ahead and solder this together. And by soldering this together, I'm giving myself a little bit of leverage so I can manipulate this the way I want it. And you know, you can see it's totally wonky. I don't care because I can flatten this when I'm done soldering. And I just need to make sure that where the joint is, it's nice and flat and together. Okay, a little bit of solder. Let's see. A little bit of hard solder. I've lost my joint. Where'd it go? Oh, right there. And again, solder from the back side so that you don't mess up your design. You can see that? A little bit right there. Keeping track of where it is. Okay, it's right there. I'm going to heat the whole thing. It will help anneal the piece. Before I'm annealing down here. Nice and soldered. Quench. And play with it just a little bit. Okay, so this is where I need pliers because you know what, playing with this berry wire is really starting to hurt my fingers. So I'm gonna grab some pliers here. Where are my pliers? There you are. These bent nose are really nice for something like this. It's all about using the tools that you have. There we go. Like this. Okay. So now I've got my shape. I'm gonna just push it down. Ah! Did you see that? It broke. Ah! It's okay. We'll just resolder it. But I'm gonna, because I'm annealed, I'm right there. I just want to shape it a little bit more. Bring it together because the less shaping I have to do later, the easier this will be since I'm so close anyway. Okay, there it is. Good. Again, always make sure your joint's together and touching. That's important. A little bit more solder on the back side. So I'm pushing it to check to make sure it's actually not springing back and that there's not a gap. It's silver, so you gotta heat the whole thing. I'm using butane, so you don't have to move as fast as you do if you're using acetylene or propane. Fingers crossed, gonna let it sit for half a second here while I put things away. Okay. Nice quench. There we go. Wonderful. Okay, so, ooh, lost my screen. Okay. So we have a working start. Now I have to think about where I'm going with this bail. Something, again, you know, I'm pursuing a fairly traditional design here. So I probably want a bail that reflects that. I'm thinking maybe even just a plain bail, like, let's see, not that piece. Oh, I have a thought. What if we just do a plain bail like so. Okay, just a plain bail like so. And then what we could do is take some of this berry wire. Oh, yeah, just one, not even some, just one. We don't necessarily need one on the back, but this should make it really, really, it'll tie it in. We'll oxidize all this stuff at some point. Okay, so now the next question is, how do we want to deal with this back plate? Because that is a huge piece of silver, and that is going to get costly. Okay, don't know. I got to figure out if I even have, usually my silver are 1 inch wide, and I typically don't keep a much wider piece around. So let's measure this and see how wide we've got. Oops. Okay, so we are over 1.5 inches wide on this. So, all right, so I think what I'm gonna have to do is I'm gonna have to end it here so I can order in or mill out a piece of sheet metal to make it wide enough to do this. Because, you know, the other choice too is I could do it with copper, but there's a part of me that's like, really? I'm putting all this in here, maybe I shouldn't be doing copper. I know, it's bad enough that I did a copper tube on the backside here. We'll see. So a suggestion was pierce out a design. So I think in the end I will pierce something out back here. Maybe I'll put little hearts back there just because I can. But my back plate will still have to be almost the whole entire width, if not most of it, right? So that I could have this, the berry wire soldered down to something. So regardless, I'm going to have a piece that's big enough to go from end to end. This length is not a big deal. It's the width. Anyway, so that's my story. Okay, well, I hope, and then I got to think about how I'm attaching that bail too. But we'll walk through that next week and see where we go with it. But I think for now, this is a good start. I'm sort of excited about this piece. I didn't know where I was going at all with this. And, you know, it's sort of a journey into doing new things and giving it a try. You know, if you've been following along, you'll also know that I don't typically do traditional designs, but why not? Here we are. That said, don't forget, virtualevercrafting.com is up and running. Registration is currently open. There is a coupon code out there. It is on the homepage of virtualevercrafting.com. If you're registering, you can get a little bit of a discount of $8 off a class that does not include kit and or shorts. But there's a lot of great classes from all of our instructors. I think the one thing that I want to point out is that Amy Schmidt took the challenge and she created several men's style pieces. So everybody's been asking for men's pieces, and she stepped up, and there they are. So I'm pretty excited about having that on the schedule. But do check it out. And in the meantime, I'm sorry, Andy. Oh, yes. There's a reminder from Julie that says, don't forget to join the Facebook page. It is Virtually Ever Crafting on the, I think it's Virtually Ever Crafting. Oh, God, I can't think. What is it? Bulletin board? I can't think. Community. Community page. So you can join us there and see all the happenings and what people are talking about if you want to keep up with the all of the things happening with that event. So virtualevercrafting.com. Today is Monday. I'll be back on Wednesday with either a UFO or maybe a continuation of this. I don't know. I'm going with the flow. I'm trying to be fluid about it just for a couple of weeks until I get my head together. But thank you everyone for your patience, and thanks for being here. Thanks for liking and sharing and commenting. We appreciate it. It helps our algorithm and it keeps us going. So until next time, have a great rest of the week. Stay warm. It's 5 degrees outside. No, I'm not going for a walk. Just saying.